Welcome to this 13th lesson in our Citizens Constitutional Advocacy Council CCAC 1.0 training series. This is CCAC Lesson 1.13 in our series. And now that we are clear that we are endowed with many unalienable rights by the laws of human nature and nature's God, beyond the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness explicitly mentioned, but including many others, we now ask how these rights are protected. And the Declaration of Independence tells us clearly the answer to this question as well. That to secure these rights, that is, to make sure that these unalienable rights are protected from being violated by others through mistakes, negligence, abuse by evil adversaries, and so on, governments are instituted among men, that is, among society, but today even more clearly among all people, men and women, all human beings. This is the purpose of government in the final analysis, to secure all of our rights of the people when attacked or lost. And this government, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. What does that mean, consent of the governed? Doesn't consent of the governed mean that our civil government governs us by our permission, not without us allowing our public servants to govern us? Of course that is what it means. We give consent to our public officials to govern. We are the consenters. This is a critical point of fact that we shall not ever forget. But many people today say, but I didn't give my consent. Well, actually, we did by our passivity. It is our duty and responsibility to be involved in our government. If we refuse to be involved by inadvertent negligence or even knowing it but doing nothing to take up that consent, we are complicit in their ruling over us. That is our fault when the government goes rogue and abuses its power. It is up to us to make sure that our government behaves itself and does what we consent to it doing, and only what we consent to it doing. Otherwise, we get what we deserve. For example, in the Florida Constitution at Article 1, Section 5, we are told that the people shall have the right peacefully to assemble, to instruct our representatives, and to petition for redress of grievances. If we do not make every effort to instruct our representatives, that is, to be in their faces to advise and direct them through our interaction, that is, instruct them, then whatever they put into law that controls us is by passive consent. We either instruct them or we don't. Either they do what we tell or advise them to do, or we allow them to rule us without telling them what should be done. However, we also need to be aware that the civil government only has the power to govern through justice and fairness, never through abuse, tyranny, or usurpation, and that they only have the powers to govern justly because we, the people, give them permission. That is our consent to govern us properly, justly, and as they govern us, we agree to allow them to do so. How do we know this is so? The Declaration says that they derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. That means they cannot exercise unjust powers. They may only govern us through these just powers, or we can remove our consent for them to rule us under certain conditions and constraints within prescribed time periods. Again, what is implied in this consent is also the idea that we, the people, can in certain situations and may actually remove that consent when we do so through very proper and legal conditions, steps, and processes. The Declaration of Independence then goes on and tells us what these conditions, steps, and processes are as it continues to lay out the self-evident truths before us. The Declaration says next, whenever any form of government, a form of government meaning a governmental mechanism or institution that is used to provide the means for government to function, becomes destructive of these ends, what ends? The ends for which governments are instituted among men, among society, for all the people, to secure, to protect, and to preserve through its principle of lawful protection our inalienable rights. The Declaration of Independence goes on here to tell us that if the government goes into a destructive mode and fails to protect us, it is the right of the people, that is, me and you collectively as a body politic, we the people, the good people, also called the public weal in some states like Virginia and Pennsylvania, under the principle of popular sovereignty, to alter or to abolish it. That is, to alter or abolish that form of government and to institute new government, and to do so in certain proper ways which are now explained to us. Let us remember that we can do two things here. We can alter, that is, change a part of the government from what it previously was, Or we can abolish, that is, completely remove and dissolve a form of government. But we should try to alter first before we go to abolishing. And then we institute either an altered or abolished and obviously replaced government that will be beneficial to us all in either case. This new government that we may institute is done so by laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them, and who is them? The people, that is us, who are seeing our inalienable rights being destroyed, as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety, again, to be protected from harm, secure from oppression, safe from abuse and tyranny of the government, and to also affect our happiness, which is an unalienable right previously stated. We have the right to the pursuit of happiness and even to alter our government in order to do so according to this idea. But then we have to realize that the timing is not only important, but imperative. We cannot just go off and change things just because we might be a bit uncomfortable, disturbed, bothered, or even violated by governmental abuses. No, there are some specific criteria which determine whether or not we are allowed to collaborate, to come together as the good people, and do this altering and abolishing. When is that? In our next lesson, we will look into when we have the authority to alter, adjust, or even throw off or abolish our rogue government under certain legitimate circumstances. But we must know and practice this very carefully so that it is entirely legitimate, lawful, and legal. This completes the 13th lesson entitled CCAC 1.13. Thank you for listening to this 13th segment as part of our CCAC 1.0 series in our national orientation. Please join us for the next session in this series as we continue to unfold the Citizens Constitutional Advocacy Council story. This is the extraordinary process in which CCAC will successfully provide continuity of government of, by, and for the people. In our next lesson, CCAC 1.14, we will go on to explain further details of how we implement our Citizens Constitutional Advocacy Council. If you realize the necessity of revitalizing constitutional polity at the state and local level, please join this cause by going to www.ccac-us.com and registering on our official website. Take Pre-Quiz 1.0. We then urge you to work through the entire CCAC 1.0 series to understand the continuity of essential information we provide to help us all be on the same page. Then, upon passing the post-quiz with a perfect score, you will be directed on how to take the next step in the process of becoming a member of this vital organization. Please don't shortchange this process. Listen to and study the CCAC 1.0 material carefully. If you have questions or concerns about what you are learning so far, or issues affecting your community, please refer to the links connected to this lesson or contact the person who gave you this information. We extend our best wishes from the Citizens Constitutional Advocacy Council.